You have ADD, so I was. Hello, sir.
Hey, man.
Okay.
I was hanging out with Lucy's the other night, man. Friday night.
But then you really had fun. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
No. The man. Y'all working.
I've learned that oh! I'm late, I know, right? I'm late. I'm gonna take okay. I stay up there. I said, I thought that is.
She's my soror. I yeah, we did. Really?
All right, guys, let's get to this September 3rd, 3:30 meeting in order. Mr. Hopkins, roll call, please.
Dominic.
Present.
Lyndon Johnson.
Present.
Jackson. Lynn. Bowman.
Present.
Hawthorne.
Present.
James Watts. Middleton. Atkins. Chavez.
Here, sir.
Smith. Lewis Johnson.
Present.
We have a quorum, sir.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hopkins. We're going to have our invocation by Commissioner Lewis Johnson and our Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Doug Dominic. Please stand.
Let us pray. Our Father in heaven, Lord, we come before you now in the name of Jesus, O God. O God, how great thou art.
Yes,
we
Lord.
thank you, O Lord, for this day. We thank you for your grace, and we thank you for your mercy. Lord, we pray that you would by your Spirit and that you would by your power lead us, guide us, and direct us, O Lord. Lord, we pray that you might put us on one accord, and all that we say and all that we do, O God, might not only be for the citizens of Caddo Parish, but might bring you and your name glory. This is our prayer in the precious and perfect name of Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
Amen.
And all face the flag, repeat after me. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
Under God.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Johnson and Commissioner Doug Dominic. Guys, we've been told our iPads are not working today due to a technology glitch, so we'll have to raise our hand if we wish to speak. Moving on, we have agenda additions. Do we have any agenda additions?
We can now. request
Is
to
it working
speak.
now?
Yeah.
Okay.
It just won't show on your
Okay.
pad.
All right, so I see no agenda additions. We move on to citizens' comments. Mr. Hopkins, do you have any citizens' comments over there?
No, sir, I do not.
All right, moving along.
We have no visitors. We move to reports, administrator report.
Good afternoon, President Chavez and Commissioners. Good afternoon. Just a couple of things, just a reminder, this coming Friday, there's a Commissioner Budget Retreat at the Swiftable Building, second floor at 9 a.m. in the morning. This is an update for the budget process, as we've been in that process already. So we appreciate you all attending that. And also put at your stations a flyer for employee councils putting on a biannual picnic for all the employees this Saturday morning from 10 to 3. And you're welcome to attend. And this is sponsored by the Employee Council, taking donations. We'd like to pass a hat if you feel compelled to give. We appreciate it. If not, come anyway. So Earl Williams Park, should be a flyer at your stations. And that concludes my presentation today, sir.
All right, thank you, Dr. Wilson. Let's see, documents, confirmation letter for Miss Erica Bryant and Mrs. Haley B. Barnett.
Yes, sir.
That's attached, and you'll come to that later in the meeting, sir.
All right.
Next, we move to commission remarks. Do have one note, the commission will sit as a tax board of review Thursday, September 5th, during the regular session commission meeting. Tax assessor will come over and present his annual deal to the commission.
Thank you, Mr. Hopkins. Moving on, communiques. Do I have anybody on the board that would like to speak? I see none. I'll yield for the president's report until Ms. Watts returns. We move on, Todd, old business.
We have no old business. We move to new business. Authorize the introduction of ordinance number 5896, amending the budget of estimate revenues and expenditures for the Economic Development Fund for the year 2019 to provide an appropriation of $100,000 to conduct a disparity study.
I'll move to Thursday.
Second.
All right. We have a motion on the floor from Commissioner Jackson and a second from LBJ. Commissioner Jackson, would you like to speak on that motion?
No.
We have no one on the board. Please vote.
Got enough?
Not bad.
And that passes 8-3.
Next, we move to authorize the introduction of ordinance number 5897, creating a contract review policy and committee of the Caddo Parish Commission for the Parish of Caddo.
Move to Thursday.
Second.
All right, have a motion on the floor. Commissioner Jackson, would you like to speak on your motion?
No.
All right, Doug Dominic.
I'd like to, is this the one on 5897?
That's correct.
I'd like to make a motion to move it to a committee.
Second.
If I can speak.
All right, go ahead.
I just have some questions. I mean, I guess this is all contracts. To get into the issue, are we stepping into the bounds of violating the charter? Are we doing things that violate the day-to-day operations, which I think we very well will likely be doing? Number two, when you're talking about all contracts, Louisiana statutes requires a public bid law of items. Material supplies, I think is $15,000 and less, plus you have to have 3 quotes. If it's a public works, it's a public bid law of over $150,000. There's also rules and procedures of getting quotes of things below $150,000. Am I pretty much correct, Donna?
You're tracking.
We have procedures and rules to make sure that's done. I just don't see the necessity of having a review committee to look over a contract when we have a road to be built or a building to be built that may cost $200,000, $300,000. It's follow the bid law that we have to do so. That's just going to hold something up. I mean, the statute is clear. If you follow the bid law, it's being given to the most responsible, lowest bidder. I mean, you can't change it. I don't know what you're going to review other than take additional time to expand this contract. Now, we don't have, I mean, if y'all want to change it to, say, professional services, so there are no bids for, lawyers, insurance companies, engineering fees, maybe we could do something like that, but still, I think you're looking at violating the charter. This is something that's in, the preview of our administrator. I trust him, I think he's doing a good job. I just don't think we need to jump off into this issue. Therefore, I think we need to send it to committee, let the committee study it, come back.
Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. I share Commissioner Dominic's views on these matters. I agree with his general outline of the situation. I would hate to see this process become politicized in any way or have any other selection criteria other than the quality of service and price that I believe is currently being used to assess suppliers by a very competent procurement director. So I see no need to establish a contract review committee. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. Next on the board is Commissioner Cawthorn.
Yes, I would really like to address my question to the author of the legislation. Commissioner Dominic did raise a good point as it relates to the bid laws, but as it relates to professional services, there is more latitude in the other selection process. So if I could direct this to Commissioner Jackson, the intent of the ordinance is to, or the resolution is to make sure that we're looking at all angles and all individuals are bidding for the job, and to make this a more transparent process where we look at different angles. So I'm just posing the question. If you could just give me some insight.
Sure. I appreciate the question. Yes, but that basically is it. And I think the operative word that you used is transparent. A lot of people talk and discuss transparency, and so it just gives more transparency. And this is definitely not to say that the parish administrator is not doing something or is doing something wrong. It's just getting more input and more equity in the process from a perspective. And I'll elaborate some more under my comments, but yes, you're correct.
Okay, under your comments today, or?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'm right after you.
You're on the board. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Thanks, Vice President.
Thank you, Commissioner Cawthorn. Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, I just want to note that in a meeting with the group of local contractors here, probably about 2 weeks ago, that I had an opportunity to attend, the issue of contracting disparity came up, and so this was an opportunity. I presented this in 2016. And as I said in 2016, this does not run afoul of any bid or procurement laws. It's similar to a similar situation that the city of Shreveport has. I don't necessarily know that if we send it to committee, if it comes out of committee and you still disagree, are we gonna send it back to committee? So I'm not sure if the sending it to committee is just a stall tactic. And again, this is, as I talked to Dr. Wilson, this is not to encroach upon the administrator's duties and responsibility. Just to simply make a recommendation to the administrator, and the administrator will continue to choose who gets the opportunity after that process. One of the things that those contractors, and I believe some will begin to show up down here sooner rather than later, I hope, to talk about one of the issues they shared in that group. And this was an open forum. But one of the issues that they shared was that is that the lowest responsible bidder tends to be an issue, and so this gives more insight into that. And so I think it is a good opportunity for us to do that. But I'll be interested to see what the board or what the group decides to do here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. We'll go ahead and wrap this up. I can't reach my button, but I'll be last. I'll support moving this to a committee. I'd like to hear, like you said, those contractors, I'd like to hear what they had to say and maybe the troubles that came about. I've learned a lot of times more so it's education in trying to do business with the parish or the city, and it may not be that it's a contract law, but it's that it's harder to navigate those waters of how do you get the contract procurement. And by having this send to committee and have the gentleman that you spoke with come in and we can address their issues, I think we could all get on common ground to see here's the best way to achieve a contract with the parish as well as look at what's already in place, rather than take the vote from the floor here today. So I'll be supporting moving it to a committee. LBJ.
Thank you. I think what also what Stephen is alluding to as well is that it wasn't just one contractor, it was a body, an organization of contractors. And the responsible bid, that definition is real gray. We really need to make it more stronger than what it really is. If we have goals, expectations for contractors as far as who they need to involve in their contract, then that needs to be firmed up. The process goes through like it should, but a lot of times you have what's called change orders. So if you come in with a low bid, now you got these change orders. Now your low bid is no longer the low bid because you got these change orders. Or you basically say that you have a particular contractor, small emerging business contractor working with you, and come to find out, then that contractor is not even working with you. So we just need to firm up some things. The committee might work, but I think what really works best is putting it into language and putting it into a policy that it then will have to flow that way. If not, then that person loses that particular, they had that bid, but for the bids, they could be basically expelled from bidding or suspended from bidding based upon them falsifying documents. So it's up to you guys. I think that we need to do something right now. The system works if you look at it from one angle, but when you look at it from another angle, it's broken.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Parliamentary Bowman.
Thank you, Vice President. And not to piggyback, but just to echo what Commissioner Lyndon B. Johnson just stated, yes, there is an issue dealing with education, and I think that some seminars, and there should be some type of even a conference to where all type of contractors, whether they're rich, poor, no matter what the race is, should be able to, learn about the process. But then I also know something that is kind of like the elephant in the room no one's dealing with, and this has been going on for decades, and that's the fact that the resources, and sometimes someone in certain groups, whether it's African American, Latino, Asian, and even if it was reverse discrimination, there have been times where some people just haven't had the chance to even get to the table because they were cut off before without even having due process or even a review of their contracts, or because they're not the buddy of something. And that's an issue we know that's been going on not just with the parish, but also with the city. And that's why people are even trying to spend hundreds of thousands for a disparity study. And so we just have to be, look at this thing from all angles, even if this goes to the committee, we need to be able to, fine tune the process. But ultimately, that's the elephant in the room. And I know for decades, and people and businesses, people just haven't had a chance to even get a chance for just fairness. And it's a lot of inequity going on. So that's really another piece to it. And so no one else will say it, but I think that's LBJ is also alluded to as well. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I'll say it. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bowman. Commissioner Dominic for the second time.
Yeah, Commissioner Bowman, I'm sorry, I don't know where you're going. I mean, y'all talk about transparency. When we do public bids, I mean, it's open to the public. I mean, and if you're able to do the job, you have the insurance, you have the proper procedures, you have the ability to do the job, you can bid on it. Dr. Wilson, have we had a bunch of contractors coming to you, or have you had any complaining because they have been discriminated against, they've been disparaged against? I mean,
No, sir. I didn't have anybody.
I don't understand what y'all saying. I mean, the law is the law. Responsible lowest bidder gets the job. There are some issues if the person has not been responsible or had, I guess we've had past incidents with them that they haven't done their job. But it's pretty much the lowest bidder, if I'm correct, Donna. I mean, there's couple issues where you can knock somebody out for being not the lowest bidder.
Pass instances.
But these are open to the public, am I correct?
Correct.
You know, if y'all, I mean, we can't change the law what the law is. Now, if y'all want to tweak some of the issues or the procedures or something like that, that's one thing we look at. But you know, I think we've been doing a good job on that. I don't know where all of a sudden we're coming from this. Change orders, they don't come until after the bid is awarded, correct? That comes into effect when you know we bid a job and then 6 months they start doing the job, or you know sometime after they start doing the job, oh yeah, we need this, we need that. There's some change orders that come into effect. So don't ever see a big problem on all that. I mean, anytime we do that, we have engineers, we have professionals, our public works guys, Ken Ward, Robert Glass, Tim Weaver, they know what to do if it's a public work or administration or office facilities and maintenance. They know what to do. Anyway, we're going to sit here and talk an hour on this, and let's just send it to the committee.
What committee though?
Well, I guess that'd be up to the president.
Commissioner Dominic, is that all?
I'm done.
Thank you. Commissioner Cawthorn.
Thanks. I want to address Commissioner Dominic. You raised interesting points. If we look at this very esoterically, when we do what I consider esoterically.
Thank you, sir.
And when you look at this more at the drill down,
you meant to spell that for us more Caddo guys now.
I was afforded the opportunity of being at the contractors meeting that Commissioner Jackson was. And in that meeting, there were several people who spoke, had been attempting to do business with the parish and the city, and there was some interesting stories being brought up. A, maybe they didn't totally understand the process. B, maybe there was some other things that need to be added on. They talked about the changes after the contract was set in place. That's always some people who mention things about professional services contract. I think it would serve us, and not to delay Commissioner Jackson's process, but to have those people in the economic, they don't necessarily need to be the economic development committee meeting, but in any committee meeting that we have, to invite those people in and share those concerns.
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, and so you get a depth and breadth of what their concerns were, and which makes me understand what Commissioner Jackson's trying to address. So I'm in favor of us putting this in a committee and making it paramount that the people that was at that meeting that day be a part of the Economic Development Committee. That way we can get an understanding of what we're trying to
I don't think
achieve.
anybody up here would have a problem with that.
Oh, no. I'm actually agreeing with you, Commissioner Dominic. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Middleton for the
Thank you,
first.
sir. I appreciate it. So eloquently put out there, Doug. You did a great job, and I agree with everything you said. And then I heard Commissioner Cawthorn just say city and parish. But then a minute ago, when it was mentioned, Doug said, we got it right, and then she said, we do. Then I guess you mean the city doesn't, but this has no bearing on what we do with the city, because that was under breath that you said that. So I'll be voting no
What was
to
under
move
breath
forward.
was when you said past instances, and when you say past
Hey, guys, I wanna
instances,
say-
you're referring to a group of people and that don't have equipment and stuff. That's all I'm
We've
saying.
got to have equipment to do the job.
Well, who's saying they though? Who are they?
Hey, guys.
So anyhow, so I'll be voting no to move it forward, but also if we move it to a committee, I'm okay with moving it to a committee. So that's it. Thank you, Mr. President.
LBJ, is this the third time?
No, this is the
Second time? Okay. Real quick,
I've
guys.
been quiet lately.
I was out of order. I
Okay,
apologize.
thank you.
All right, so the process is defined. You need to have responsible bid, and it should be the lowest bid. But not all the time is the responsible bid the lowest bid. And you know that is possible.
It is.
So what I'm suggesting is that we firm up our process by making sure that we make sure that the responsible bid is the correct bid, not necessarily being the lowest bid. Because with the lowest bid, there again it goes that you have these change orders. So I got the bid, I know the system now. So I know how to bring in the lowest bid. Once I got it, and now I got some change orders. There's some things that's gonna come up. So, you know, that's the problem that I have, and that's the problem that the contractors have, is that this is happening. It might not happen every day, but it's happened over some period of time. And so they get knocked out, and they have complaints about that. One of the other issues they have complaint about is coming publicly and talking about it, and then people will try to blackball them.
Yep.
That's one of the main concerns, is them being blackballed, not being able to get any kind of contract because, you complain about the system, the process, and we just won't even look at your bid, or your bid will be looked at, but it's gonna be high, it won't be responsible, you'll be blackballed. Third part is, in 2015-16, I know that we did set up how to do business with the parish. We did one session actually with the group of contractors, and then we had another session here in the chamber of how to do business with the contractors. That's something I think that maybe needs to happen every year, so that people will know how to do business. Some people are new; it may form a new company, and they just don't know the proper steps on how to do business. I'm in favor of either way it goes, but I just think there needs to make a change. We can't continue to do business the same way, because we're leaving out a population of Caddo Parish that needs to be able to do some of this work in order for that dollar to continue to circulate within the parish. And I think that's why we all are up here, is to make sure that our dollar keeps circulating in the parish, and then it keep going around and around and around, and not go out of the parish and go to some other parts of the state or other parts of the country.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you. I'm in favor of improving the process, reviewing the process, making sure we have the best process in place. However, I'm not in favor of establishing a committee which will then review each individual contract over a certain level. I just think that opens us up to activities that don't align with the procurement processes we're aspiring to maintain. So for those reasons, I would support going to committee to review the process and try to enhance and improve the process. Thank you.
Commissioner Jackson.
I believe the process, if I'm correct, is a sealed bid as well, right?
Yes.
So we don't know who is putting in what. We don't know who's putting in what, and so that's one of the concerns that was also brought up. I think the change order process is very important for us to look at, because if Commissioner Lynn submits his bid at $2 and I've submitted mine at $2.50, he automatically becomes the lowest, based on some of our definition and discussion. He automatically becomes the lowest responsible bidder. But after 3 months on the job, Commissioner Lynn submits a change order for $100, and now all of a sudden he's no longer the lowest. He still has the award, he still has the project, but he's no longer the lowest responsible bidder. I would have been the lowest responsible bidder. So those are issues that have come up and been discussed. But I just want to be clear that this is not doing anything to run afoul of anything. School board, before they sign before the superintendent, if it's over a certain amount, maybe this threshold is too low. But if it's at a certain amount, the school board has to give approval for Dr. Goree or whoever the superintendent is to sign off. So it's no different than any other organization or public body has done. So to say that what this is trying to attempt to do runs afoul of public bid laws or the parish charter for that matter. The parish charter does give day-to-day operations and administration to the administrator. At the end of the day, based on this legislation, the parish administrator will still make the final decision on who gets the award. And so I want to make sure that we keep that in mind. And I still have to ask this question, just as something to ponder and think on. If this goes to committee and when it comes back out, then what will be the reservation at that point in time? Because we can go in and flesh out all of that discussion if you're forward, you'll be for it. If you're not, you'll either try to stall it in committee or get back out here and, conjure up more questions. Because typically what happens is we get into a committee and all the questions seem to disappear. And the question we usually get asked is, what is this? And so if you actually will take the opportunity to read this information, you'll see that it's pretty cookie cutter and cut clear. So I just wanted to put that out there as an FYI. Thank you, Mr. Acting President.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Attorney Frazier.
One thing I wanted to address, it's the lowest responsive bidder and not the responsible bidder. But that means responsive to the conditions of the bid that are placed in the bid packet by whichever department is presenting the project for bid, what specifications that they have to meet. I've talked with some people individually about tweaking those, but we've also discussed that there would be some things that would have to be done depending on what tweaks you wanted to make to those. Also, too, I do think there is an issue with the parish charter that other entities do not have in their charters, as far as which branch oversees those operations. And lastly, there are also certain issues within the ordinances. I noted that professional services were discussed, but say for instance, certain types of professional services, legal services, for instance, outside attorneys can't be hired without the consent of the parish attorney. So, those are some other issues to think about. Also, too, a couple of you have talked to me about the Small and Emerging Business Program, which the parish does have, which we got a report on. And I'm not sure what, if any of those goals, how those play into the issues you want to address with the contractors, whether or not they meet the qualifications for that program or whether or not they are actually signed up for the program. And I do believe the How to Do Business with the parish is done yearly at the Minority Business Expo. So that is something that's already being done on an annual basis. So I just wanted to bring those things to your attention.
Thank you, Attorney Frazier. Commissioner Middleton.
Yes, sir. Call for the question.
Second.
Anybody else up there?
All right, got a motion for call for question, got a second. See no one on the vote on the board, please vote. And that passes 11 with one out of the chamber. All right, Mr. Hopkins, you want to read? We'll call for the
And a
question.
motion and a second. A motion by Dominic, second by Atkins to send ordinance number 5897 to a committee.
I would say policies and procedures.
That would be
Seems fitting. All
President.
Okay.
right, please vote.
Wait a minute, which one was it?
Policy and procedures.
No procedure, no committee.
Well, point of clarification, that's up to the president to determine what committee.
Or
Or the acting president.
True.
I don't-
What's clear? Let's get clarity on the motion.
There's no committee plan on the motion.
Well,
She can overturn it when she come back.
he can do it.
Just still be a president when she returns.
Yeah, hey guys, I'm fine with her doing it as well. I mean, ultimately, it sounds like we all care about talking about this more and getting the
Yeah.
same resolution, so.
sent to a committee chosen by the president.
Absolutely.
That's how Doug wrote it.
It's just a
Is he not the
process.
president?
To make sure the process right.
Today,
Yeah,
yes.
he is. He can make the same decision,
Not tomorrow,
but by,
not at 6 o'clock.
All right, we'll vote. So the motion on the floor is to move to the committee of choice that the president, when she returns, please vote. And that passes 10-1.
Next, move to authorize the introduction of ordinance number 5898 of 2019, declaring certain adjudicated properties to be surplus and to authorize the parish administrator designee to sell the parish of Caddo's tax interest in certain surplus adjudicated properties.
I would like to move that we advance the one for Mr. Lemar Flukers. The others had some wrong GO numbers. Two of them is the wrong. I couldn't find the GO numbers on them. And then another one, I believe, the Fuller Center may be looking at. So, but I know Lemar Flukers is the one. Was fine. But I think we need to get together on the other three. Jimmy, I can get with you. He sent it to me last week, and I was traveling last week. In fact, I was en route to Baton Rouge. But, I mean, they seem fine, but, well, I can't say they seem fine, but there were the GO numbers, when you look it up, it says no property for two of them. And then one of them, the Fuller Center, is looking at. So, but Mr. Lemar Flukers, I don't know which one that is.
So do you want to move and then amend on Thursday, sir?
No, because we can't, this is an ordinance, so we wouldn't be able to do anything on it. It's the one that's GO number 0068. 0068.
Move that one to Thursday?
Yeah, move that one to Thursday, then I'll get with Jimmy on that.
For property number 2,
Yeah,
Chair will
number
second
2.
that.
Number 2.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor and a second for property number 2 to move to Thursday.
Okay.
Would you like to speak on your
No,
first
that's
vote?
it.
All right,
That's it.
please vote.
And I'll get with Jimmy when we.
Who's the second on that, sir?
I was, sir.
Okay.
All right, and that passes 11 with one out of the chamber.
Authorize introduction of ordinance number 5899 of 2019 to deem proper surplus and authorize the sale of surplus property owned by the parish of Caddo.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Middleton and a second from Lewis Johnson. Please vote. That passes 11 with one out of the chamber.
Authorize resolution number 70 to authorize the Caddo Parish Administrator to consent to annexation by the city of Shreveport of certain right-of-ways within the parish of Caddo.
Motion to move to Thursday.
Second.
All right, motion from the chair and second from Commissioner Parliamentarian Bowman. Sorry.
Yes.
Commissioner Dominic.
Yeah, can someone just give us a brief explanation on this, and if it's annexed, does the city take over these right-of-ways, maintaining and operating these right-of-ways?
Jimmy's on his way.
This is just really some cleanup. This is kind of some right-of-ways. The McCary Street is not even built. The right-of-way portion of Mount Zion Road, the city's got part of it, we've got part of it, and we're just trying to clean it up, and the city's gonna take it in. It's part of the new food bank.
And they will be maintaining these
Oh,
right-of-ways?
yeah, they'll take it into their maintenance system. We'll be
Okay.
done, we'll be done with it.
Well, that'll help us out then, huh?
Good deal.
Okay.
Are there any homes in this area?
Pardon?
Are there any homes in this area?
I don't believe so.
It's all commercial?
There's one about, and this is in my district, that's why I'm answering it. It's about 3/4 of a mile away.
Yeah, it's a
but
long way. This is where they're building a brand new food bank, and it's mostly industrial businesses.
Okay. That's all the question I have.
Thanks, LBJ. Guys, this is, as he said, it's the new food bank. We went over there, toured it. It's a very, very small section of the street that the city's gonna end up taking over, and it's gonna help their right-of-way in and out of the food bank. This is gonna be really, really good for Southern Hills, so I appreciate you guys' support for this. Thank you.
I have a question. I just have a question. So is the food bank leaving, or is this a satellite site, or are they leaving out of where they are? I'm just
I'll
curious.
take this.
Yeah.
They're actually opening up a whole new facility, and they're building out because they need more refrigeration space, and their current building does not house enough refrigerated and freezer area for the capacity that they've taken in. So this is going to be a new location that they're going to move to for their freezer section.
Which is in my
So
district.
so that answers one part of the question. So are they leaving?
They'll still occupy that building now because they have the garden outside and they have the dry storage in the
Right.
store.
Well, and particularly because they have access, because part of the continuum of care was that they would be in an area that is closer to particularly the Hope Connections and the homeless population. So that was my concern. But what it sounds like is they're going to stay there as well and operate this as well. So they can operate both sides.
And I don't want to speak for them, but I do know their
Okay.
refrigerated section is going to move.
I got you. If we could get some clarity on that, I would appreciate it.
I'll get with Martha on that today.
Okay.
Commissioner Parliamentarian Bowman.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Vice President. That's exactly what I was going to say, Ms. Martha Merritt, because I don't want to misquote anybody, but I met with her, and I could have sworn she said they were closing all together. And it was more than just refrigeration, because it was just more better space and stuff. But we can check and see, because, you know, I know that's going to your district, but it's currently been in my district on Texas. So just a point of note. Thanks.
All right, please vote. That passes 11 with one out of the chamber. Mr. Hopkins.
Authorize resolution number 71 to provide an annual certification to the State of Louisiana Department of Transportation.
So moved for Thursday.
Second by the chair. Please vote. All right, and that passes 11 with one out of the chamber.
Authorize resolution number 72 of 2019 urging members of the Northwest Louisiana Legislative Delegation and the Louisiana Legislature to adopt laws requiring equal pay for equal work immediately upon
So move
convening-
Thursday.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor and a second. Commissioner Jackson, would you like to speak on your motion? All right, Commissioner Dominic?
Yeah, is this on, I think 72 and 73? Again, we're trying to tell the legislature what to do. I think it's just one of those issues that we don't need to get into. Of course, I understand that Commissioner Jackson, you have a different point of view on this. I know that there's another issue coming up about the sickle cell license plate. I don't think that that's that big a deal, but the 72 and 73, I cannot support telling the legislature what to do. My position has been, if you don't like it, then call up your state representatives, call up your state senator and tell them how to vote. I just don't like the commission as a body going out passing these resolutions. And I hope that we don't spend an hour on talking about this stuff, on things that we have no control over whatsoever, because that's what we end up doing. I'm going to vote no. If you're going to vote no, vote no. If you're going to vote yes, vote yes.
It sounds good.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Commissioner Dominic, you done?
I'm done.
All right, Commissioner Lynn.
The legislators I've spoken with have said that they like receiving information from the area governing bodies as far as direction on what we are wanting. And then once they get this direction, they research it further. That's all, Acting President. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lynn. Commissioner Parliamentarian Bowman.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And I just want to say, and I agree, Commissioner Dominic, on some of these, when we're trying to urge people, but again, it's kind of our role. But I do want to say this one, even if you're not for 73, 72 is just a real simple one, not you particularly, just all of us in around this horseshoe. It's either a yes or no. Do you not feel that women or there should be equal pay for everybody or not? And if you don't believe everybody should have equal pay, then you vote against it. If you do, vote for it. That's all. Thank you.
Commissioner LBJ.
Thank you. I have to disagree with Doug on this one. I think we represent the voice of 250,000 people. Collectively, that's what it took to get us here in this spot. And so if this is an issue with some of the citizens of Caddo and they can't get to their legislators, or their voice is not heard enough to their legislators, then we are the voice that will project into a microphone or a megaphone for them. If you support it, you support it. If you don't, you don't. But it is what is normally done in our state and in our nation. People send resolutions all the time, different bodies. They send it to the other bodies for them to consider. That way they know collectively that this organization is urgent for this to be done. If not, vote no. And then, have the clerk send the voting record along with it to say who voted for it, who didn't. So your legislator would know, well, he didn't vote for it, but collectively as a body, as a majority, it either passed or it failed. So, you know, it's not nothing that we should sit here and talk 3-4 hours about. If you care to do it, you do it. If you don't, don't. Simple. But I don't want nobody to be misled that we shouldn't be doing this because they do it all across the United States. I'm done.
Mic drop.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. I'll speak on this really quick, guys. I think we had actually voted on this a couple years ago, and it's back on here. I kind of agree with Commissioner Dominic about we urged the state legislator to do a lot of stuff. This is one thing where we can go speak with our representatives ourselves to carry a vote. And this may be one where, okay, LBJ, you may be right. We do represent the citizens, and maybe our unified voice can be heard by them. But this resolution is to send it for the entire next year's legislative session. So I think maybe we should have a more unified vote towards that session, not really right now, a year in advance. But I was looking at this and I also looked at the other one where we're trying to do the $100,000 study for the disparity. And in this specific legislation, it says, whereas in Louisiana, women in general only make 65 cents for every $1 men are paid, and the gap among minority women is broader, 48 cents for African American women and 53 cents for Hispanic women. Of course, it does a lot more in regards to numbers, but it sounds like, why are we going to pay for a disparity study when we know the disparity exists?
That's what I was saying.
Because we have the numbers right here. So we should take that information and get down to Baton Rouge and talk to our legislators as opposed to just doing it here. So I'm voting no on it. I guess you guys do what you will. Thank you. Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. Acting President. As you all know, I've never been a big fan of placing statewide issues, state legislative issues on our agenda. I understand other people feel differently, and I respect that. But one of the big reasons I don't like having these issues come up on our agenda, because we tend to make judgments without all the facts and stating our opinions. But and I'm not an expert on equal pay issues, but I will say I believe in equal pay. However, I do not believe in having government tell me what pay level I have to apply, and I don't like opening up private business to legal turmoil by having such laws on the books. So, you know, this isn't an issue I wanted to bring up. It's not an issue I want to discuss, but when you put it on the agenda, you force me to discuss it. So I'll be voting no. Thank you very much, Mr. Acting President.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. Commissioner Dominic?
Yeah, I just had one thing to say. I just want to make sure. I'm not saying, and please, I want to go on record, but saying that I'm not against equal pay. I think that it should be equal pay. I'm just against the fact that we are sending this down to the legislators. So hopefully, I'm hoping, I guess I should have called for the question.
Too late. Too late.
Yeah, I know. These resolutions, Donna, I'm going to ask you this. It's certify the clerk, and it says, you know, for example, to say 7 for or 5 against, correct? It doesn't have, or does it have everybody who voted for or against on these resolutions?
I will defer to Todd on that because he actually certifies and handles sending them down to the legislative bodies.
Usually when we send to the legislative body, we send it with each person's vote.
Okay. So they would show that
You
Doug
show
voted
each-
yes or Doug voted no?
That's correct.
Okay.
That make you feel better.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Dominic. Commissioner Parliamentarian Bowman.
Yes, sir, and I'll be brief. Oh,
This will
yeah,
be my
Jackson. It'll be his first time.
Jackson, go ahead.
I just, you know, I hate for us to be an hour on this, but it kind of is what it is. And I'm not for the inner city. I'm not 100% for the inner city connector through Allendale, but I believe, Dr. Wilson, we have consistently sent a resolution urging and supporting and asking the legislature to step up and do something about the inner city connector. And I believe during this legislative session, because there was such a chorused and continued and persistent effort being made, and we didn't stop sending that resolution. In fact, I think I call you every time it comes up. I think the law school has been on our legislative priorities for 3 or 4 years now, maybe longer. And through that, we had a conversation 2 weeks ago where the chancellor for the Southern University Law School and assistant president was here in town touring buildings. And that's a conversation that's 40-something years in the making. And so, you know, my concern is when we say we should not pass these resolutions, our legislators are listening and depending on us to give them advice about what we would like to see at the state level. And so I think it's the right thing for us to do when they convene, because they're going to convene for the organizing session, not in the spring, but they will convene in January. And so this is an effort to make sure that we have this ready to go. We have passed this before, and I also believe that some folks have indicated that they support equal pay for equal work, and here we are today having this discussion, and it seems like there's some reservation on this or some unreadiness on this. So I just want to make sure that we have some consistency. We're not telling the legislature to do anything. We are asking them to consider their support and their position on this very important issue. With regard to telling private business what we do, Mr. Clark is here. I believe the MPC regulates private business. Don't we tell them how much square footage they have to have for a parking lot, and their fire inspector that tells them how many fire exits that they have to have for? And so I believe we regulate commerce and business every day in America. It's nothing new. And so this is just one of those opportunities where we talk about closing the gap on the income disparity. I see a lot of conversation and TV ads around town during this particular season that talks about how our economy is lagging. Well, our economy is lagging because we have such a disparity with regards to minorities and women in this state, and we should be about the business of turning that around. Hopefully we will ask our legislators to consider this. That's all we're doing, is urging and requesting them to do anything. We're not saying that they need to do it. We're asking them to consider. Thank you, Mr. Acting President.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Lewis Johnson.
Thank you, Acting President. I think that it would be good for us to frame this properly. So for one to say that if one, in their personal opinion, do not think that it is prudent to request the legislative to make one move or another, that's one thing. But to say that either you are for this particular legislation or against it because you are not for sending it through the legislation would not be framing it properly. So I wanted to make sure that we frame it properly and say that one can 100% be for equal pay, as am I, and still be against or have a personal opinion that differs as relates to sending it through the legislation. So I just want to say that because it would say that either you're for it or you're against it. That would not be accurate, and that's not a proper framing of this particular resolution. And I say that while supporting it, but at the same time, for clarity's sake, I wanted to correct that. Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson, I agree with you wholeheartedly, and the way that you eloquently put that is, I think, exactly the sentiment of the commission. I think Doug wanted to clarify himself in saying that he's not against non-equal pay. As a business owner, I understand that you get it. Likewise, I have a business, and my employees who are female and Hispanic are paid very, very well. And I'm for equal pay and then some. And I think that the work should dictate the pay. The harder you work, the more you should make. Obviously, this is America. I think it's kind of come down into politics where we're saying, if you're not for this, then you're against equal pay. And that's not what we're saying up here. I think everybody in here is saying that we all would think that we want equal pay in this parish. So thank you for that. And I agree with Doug Dominic. I'm 100% on for equal pay. I just don't think this is the measure in which we need to do it. We have workforce commission, we have labor laws. There's there are mechanisms already in place to guarantee proper payment for our citizens. So something like this may just be a fruitless piece of legislation for politics. And I think we need to get to the root. Nobody in my district has called and said, I think I'm being unfairly treated and not equally paid. Because if they would, I'd be down here in Government Plaza rooting for them. So if we have
Well, I resent that it's a fruitless piece of legislation.
Well, we're all entitled to our opinions, Commissioner.
But you're not entitled to your own set of facts either.
I'll finish. So if there was somebody in your district, I would extend the same olive branch to you, that if they're unequally paid and they feel that they're doing work and somebody else is getting paid more, or that they're at a labor that is not properly paid, I'll be the first to fight on the front lines with you to go to the Labor Commission and get that rectified. So I'm going to put that out there.
Yeah.
That's all. Commissioner Cawthorn.
I don't think every time a resolution come up that we need to be mired into a civics lesson. It is very clear that if you know anything about the Constitution and the founding of the United States, that local men left local municipalities and went to Washington, D.C. and formed legislation that helped them govern them in their local locale. All these resolutions are, from my estimation, whether you get into the crux and depth and breadth of what they are, it's a measure by which local flows in the state, state flows in the national. Even from whether it's upward or downward, people at each legislative level are looking at other government bodies to make a determination that what is best for the individuals in. If I'm the senator of Louisiana, I need to know what's going on in District 12 in the Caddo Commission in Louisiana. That's a mechanism by which I judge what I need to do nationally. Same thing at the state level, same thing at the local level. So I think it's unnecessary for us to say what we should and should not be doing. We are all government and politics is local. And so by us making a voice and a vote how we feel about a certain issue, whether or not we get into the minutiae or the eccentricities of what we like this or we against it, it gives us a gauge. When I say us, elected official at different levels, what is going on locally and how we need to move forward. So let us not discard what we do here locally in terms of resolutions. And I will agree 100% with Doug Dominique. You vote. If you're for it, yes. If you're not, no. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
President.
Commissioner LBJ.
Thank you. You know, these resolutions, they do carry some weight. And I don't know how one would say that no one in my area has ever called me and told me about this, when nationwide this is an issue. This covers from California to New York and from Detroit to New Orleans, that women feel that they're not getting equal pay. So just because you didn't get a personal phone call from an individual, I guarantee you after today you'll get a phone call, because you know it's an issue that's nationwide. And the only thing we're urging is for our delegation to take this up as an issue for when they go back into session. That's all this is talking about. Our local delegation to take this up as an issue when they go back to session. So the people in Caddo Parish can say, well, we dropped the ball on this. If we could make the policy change, we won't have to do this urging nobody to do that. We can do it ourselves. But we can't make these changes. These changes has to be made at the state level. So being that it's made at the state level, you urge the delegation to make a change. And if they make the change, fine. If they don't make the change, then the ball is not in our court anymore. It's in their court. We've done what we were supposed to do. We sent those resolutions to them for them to do that. We make things personal a lot. I mean, some things, yeah, if you don't agree with it, then no. But I've heard some say, well, I agree with it, but I don't want to vote for it. That doesn't make sense to me. If I'm against it, I'm against it. And my constituents have to come down here and convince me to vote otherwise, or call me to vote otherwise. But if I'm in favor of it, then vote in favor of it. I mean, what's the hesitation? Repercussions of other people? I mean, I don't understand. If you for it, vote for it. If you're against it, vote against it. It's simple. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Middleton.
Call for the question.
Second.
All right, we have a call for the question. Please vote on call for the question. And that passes 11-2.
8-3.
3.
Yeah, look at that one over there.
8 tacos minus
Thanks,
3
guys.
tacos.
You my glasses or you just can't
Right.
count?
Can't see. All right, Mr. Hopkins.
That's to authorize resolution number 72 of 2019.
All right, please
Okay.
vote.
Mr. Chavez?
Mr. Hopkins changed that from,
Okay.
swap these.
That advances.
That advances.
That's a 7-4. All right, next.
Authorize resolution number 73 of 2019, urging the Louisiana State Legislature to repeal state overreach into the local control of workers' protection policies immediately upon convening January 20 special session.
Move to Thursday.
Second.
Todd, y'all are noting that his machine is.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Yes, I did.
'Cause Lord, Stormy would have fit.
All right, Commissioner Jackson, would you like to speak on your motion?
No, I'll wait.
All right.
I should be up there.
Commissioner Middleton?
Move to, for a substitute motion. If I may ask, Mr. Jackson, what should be the minimum wage?
I don't have any preconceived.
Well, then, I can support this if we'll make the minimum wage in Caddo Parish be $30 an hour.
That's generous.
I'll second that.
You support that? That's good.
That was the second?
If that's a motion, I'll second.
That's $30 an hour. Let's watch the jobs leave out of here. Let's watch all the jobs go everywhere.
Why would you
Caddo
make
See,
that
that's
Parish.
sarcasm. Let me go ahead and do mine.
Why would you make that type of motion?
Very generous.
All right, Mr. Hopkins, is there a motion on the floor?
The original.
I'm not gonna fight with you.
The
The
original.
motion to,
Yeah, I'm not gonna fight you on
You
that.
said $30 an hour, and we have a second from Commissioner Lynn, or is that right?
I second it.
Okay. So, motion on the floor is for, to send this to the legislator with an amendment to $30 an hour for the minimum wage. Commissioner Middleton, you want to speak on your motion?
Well, that's a substitute motion.
Okay.
There's a teacher coming back.
Keep it rolling, man.
Is, all right, Commissioner Lewis Johnson.
Seriously, and with all due respect, I would ask Commissioner Jackson, give me a little clarity in that as relates to this resolution. I'm not completely clear on it. Would you give me just a little insight, if you would?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
This is a resolution that we passed early this year already, and in the previous legislative session, it got some traction, but stalled in some of the very final stages of the legislative session as they were putting the budget together. All this is saying is that we would authorize a local election that would set a local minimum wage. And so that's all it basically does, is that, you know, I believe I see some conversation about, and we passed and supported legislation that said that we would like to have local control over our sales tax collections. We have local control over setting our property tax millages. We have local control over our police and fire and public safety. All we're saying is that we would have a state referendum that would allow local and municipal bodies or municipalities to set their minimum wage. And so if Caddo Parish voters chose to set their minimum wage at $30, then that's where Caddo Parish citizens, but this would go out for a referendum. That's what the legislation at the state is doing.
Okay, thank you. I just did not appreciate that type of language in it, so I didn't fully
Which
understand
one?
it.
Which, the overreach?
I see it.
Yeah, I think that was duplicative of what the city of Shreveport did. I think we mirrored this from the city of Shreveport's legislation, which passed unanimously. But
Understand.
I get what you're going.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Parliamentarian Bowman.
I promise you, Chair, it won't be long. I won't pontificate nor alliterate too long, nor try to debate. Cawthorn. I just wanted to say what I didn't get a chance to say. I do agree, especially where this aligns, Commissioner Atkins, 100% with you in regards to government, nor should anybody really tell a business owner what they should pay someone, because when you apply, you know what it is then when you get hired. I just wanted to go back on the equal pay thing. Whether the person provided or not, no, it's for real. Aren't these facts, Commissioner Jackson, that you have here?
Correct.
And so I'm just to understand why in 2019 that we even have to urge or even have to put anything out there that, I mean, let's say if I'm a parent and I have 2 kids and I have a son and a daughter, I'm still gonna be upset if my daughter has to make less than simply because she's a female. If she's hired to do the job, she should get paid just as equal as the male. If it's somebody from a different race doing the job, they should get paid equally as well. The facts are right there. It says that we don't, and it's 2019. That's a problem, and that's the issue. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Parliamentarian. Commissioner Dominic.
I don't know what we all got. I've gotten confused with this $30 blah, blah, blah. I just know that I'm not going to be supporting this. And I know come Thursday, I hope we don't sit up here an hour going over this, because this is why we have the workshop, okay? So that thing passed, the one before passed 7-4, so we know how we're going to vote. So let's just vote on it Thursday, and if I vote no and John votes no, and it passes, y'all send the resolution down there. I just want my name showing voting no, okay? Same thing on this one. And someone said something, I think when Lewis was talking, he was the last one, and now we got 5 people talking because of the one issue. But it comes down to the thing is, you know, Commissioner Jackson and I have I guess in Lewis, LB, sometimes have a different opinion, and I understand you have your opinion. And if that's what you want to do, that's fine. I'm just going to vote now, okay?
I concur.
Indubitably.
But you know you have to vote, so why don't we sit here and argue this thing? You already got it for.
That's what they pay us for.
Commissioner Dominic, is that all?
That's it.
Thank you, Doug. I'm next. I'm going to vote no on $30 an hour, because I think it's astronomical. However, I do understand why Commissioner Middleton put that on there. I don't think, because, again, we don't necessarily disagree with equal pay or raising minimum wage. However, I think it's more predicated on how will it be done. For instance, how will we achieve the equal pay? How are we going to raise the minimum wage? And that's what worries some of the people around this horseshoe is, do I think the current minimum wage is correct? Maybe not, but I'm not for $30 an hour. So if we just urge the legislator to raise it and just leave a blank check for whatever they want to set it down there, well then I don't think that's us representing our parish correctly. Likewise, if we're going to do it where we just raise the minimum wage in our parish to $30 an hour and Bossier keeps it at 10, well, all the employees that live in Caddo Parish are going to jump the river and go work over there. Or, I'm sorry, all the employees will come over here, but all the businesses will go over there. Yeah. And Caddo Parish will decline, and we'll lose even more citizens. So it has to be a teetering game where how do we do this where it's fair for everybody simultaneously, where we don't hurt the businesses and run them out of town, but we help the people that we're trying to help. So that's the thing where, sure, I'm for equal pay. Obviously, I'm for minimum wage being a set right price. But likewise, how do we do it? And that's where if we just urge them to do something, but we don't necessarily tell them how they should do it, what are we going to end with? We're going to end with something that's happened down in Baton Rouge that we didn't necessarily represent the constituents by coming together to ask them to do something we may not want or like what they do. So I think we should think about this a little bit more and come together on a solution on how should we work on this wage stuff that we're not even really supposed to be messing with in Caddo Parish. So that's all, guys. Commissioner LBJ.
Call for the question.
Second.
Oh, man.
We got a
surprise.
Call for the question in a second. Please vote.
Just to be clear,
Let's clarify.
please state what the
Oh, it's the call for the question.
Call for the question.
$30.
Everybody's in agreement.
Call for the
We're voting
question.
on the
$30.
Yes.
On all
But
issues.
this is for the $30.
Right.
This is for the $30.
You got a
This is for the call for the question, guys.
Sorry.
Right.
This is called for the question.
On the $30.
Point of clarification.
This is calling for the question.
That's correct.
On the whole resolution.
On everything.
Well, the parliamentarian just spoke, and it is called for the question.
So let's go on.
First.
Let's move
Thank
on.
you.
Mr. Jackson, Mr.
Voted?
Lyndon Johnson, thank you, sir.
Oh, okay. I thought y'all had hesitation, that's why I ain't vote yet. I'm ready.
Mr. Chavez, will you push Ms. Gage White's button again and take it off?
I tried, it's just staying highlighted.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll remove it. All right, should be 10-1.
All right, that passes 10-1. So now we have $30 an hour.
We have a substitute. It says urging the Louisiana State Legislature to repeal state overreach and local control of worker protection policies and set minimum wage of $30.
In Caddo Parish, which was not the original.
This is a substitute.
Substitute, all right. Please
That's
vote.
correct.
Smith, you sold your business.
Okay.
Commissioner Smith, did you mean to do yes or no on that?
No.
No,
He meant no.
okay.
Thank you.
That fails.
So that fails 100%. All right, so now we're back to the original.
That's correct. For original resolution 73.
All right. Please vote.
That moves to Thursday.
That moves 6-5. All right, Mr. Hopkins.
Authorized resolution number 75 of 2019, amending the rules and bylaws of the Caddo Parish Commission regarding order of agenda and agenda items.
So move to Thursday.
Second.
All right, real quick, guys, this is something that I brought up, and this is what we do in the work session. We work on stuff. I wanted to get your guys' opinion on this. We've had this situation come up a lot where we do an agenda addition, and the audience has no idea what we're even voting to expand the agenda, to talk about the agenda. Sometimes we don't even know about it, so I figured this was what I sent to Attorney Frazier to come up with to see how can we better inform the citizens and ourselves on the agenda addition that we're looking at, that we're going to vote. Something that we came up with was to possibly move it down later in the agenda. I know you guys had time to look over this. I would love any feedback or suggestions on this, and then we can either move this to Thursday or we can kill it. But this is something where I've had multiple people reach out to me saying that, hey, I don't know what you guys are voting on to even say if I want to talk about yes or no that I would like to add it on the agenda. So that's all. Commissioner Jackson?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to place this in Personnel and Policies Procedures Committee.
Second.
And I'll speak on my motion.
All right, go ahead.
No, I'm just, I don't necessarily know that this, will they still know what we put on the agenda at this point, Todd?
It includes having all the agenda additions in writing and available to the public. Is also a part of that
That's fair.
resolution.
So agenda additions will need to be in writing. So most of them are always in writing, it sounds like.
Right,
Am I?
but they're not always placed here on the table or out front near the comment card.
Okay.
And then I was in
I got you. But does that mean we need to change the order?
Well, I think they were working hand in hand was what Commissioner Chavez discussed with me.
Okay, all right. I was gonna withdraw my motion, but okay, I'm done. Thank you. I'll see if there's some more comments.
Keeping the motion or withdrawing?
I'm gonna keep it for now.
Okay. Commissioner Johnson?
All right, basically looking at the legislation and just dropping it down a few spots, I don't see where that's gonna actually benefit the public. Now, what you mentioned about having the hard copy at the podium and out in the lobby, I mean, we can still do that before the meeting starts, and the public will still have it without changing the order. So I don't quite understand why we need to change the order of which that comes into when the main focus is giving the public the agenda edition, which would be here and out in the foyer, which doesn't take a change.
It was my understanding that dropping it down would give them an opportunity to actually read what's on the table in the foyer before you did the hearing on it, where they decided if they wanted to speak for or against adding it to the agenda.
Well, I mean,
because if you, normally when you come in here and you put agenda addition, some of you may not know that somebody else has one. And that's always the first time the citizen hears of it. If it's down later, they have an opportunity to see that, pick it up, read it, before you get to it on your agenda.
okay, so to me, the issue is how will the public know that we have an agenda edition? And second, that agenda edition is then viewed so they can actually see it. So my thing is, if you want to do it that way, before we start our meeting, it can be put up on these screens. You have some paper right here, you have some paper out in the lobby. And then that way, they can see agenda edition up there already before the meeting starts. There's no policy change, it's just already public view that we got some agenda additions. Because Todd and Michelle are already here, you can put it on the screen. I mean,
I see the clerk have a comment on it.
It's not that easy. I mean, we have to do a lot of changing. And let me also point out, just while we're talking about, you're talking about moving things down. So you're saying citizen comments, visitors can no longer be an agenda addition if you have it where it's at. Special resolutions can no longer have an agenda addition because where it's at.
That's why I'm confused.
All other meetings that I'm aware of, that I go to and stuff, the agenda additions are at the front. The public hearing is the part for people to, if they don't like what they've heard as far as that agenda addition,
Right.
then they get to stand up and say, wait, what are y'all doing? We're not like what we're hearing.
Or we don't understand.
We don't understand or whatever. That's correct. A lot of times, yes, we get a piece of paper, but we don't get it until the gavel drops sometimes.
Right.
So we run into a problem there.
LBJ, I'm with you on the screens, but they said they wouldn't have enough time to put it up
That's
there.
the problem. If we're not getting it till right then, she can't go back into the system and make the changes like we need to sometimes.
okay, so we can't hook a laptop right there.
Not to go into those screens, no. I
We
mean,
need to work on this system.
I mean, we can,
The old system you could.
but who's gonna do all that?
I mean, see,
The third employee that we brought.
I mean, our system, that tells me that our system is not ready for what we need to be done. If
Well, I'm
that's-
telling you, the system's not like that. In any meeting we go to around the state, it's at the front.
I'm not
Agenda
trying to
addition.
change it. I ain't saying nothing about changing the
I
order.
keep it where
I'm just saying that if the public needs to know what we're talking about in a agenda edition, have hard copies here, have hard copies in the foyer, and you can put it on the screen, if that's take us to the another level. But put the paper here and paper out there. They come in, they pick up the agenda, they pick up the edition. That's it. We don't have to change the order. I wasn't in favor of changing the order.
We can try to put, but we have to get it beforehand. That's the other thing. We have to get it before the gavel falls.
Well, that's another issue amongst us 12. If we know we got agenda edition, it has to be before 3 o'clock or 3:30. It got to be 3:29, 3:28 or something, or before she drops the gavel. Simple. I think if I had one, it's typically gonna be done because of the same day, and you'll have it already ready on everybody's station. I mean, that's typically how it is. And if everybody don't have a copy of it when it comes up, just vote no. It's simple. If it's something from staff, they're gonna already have it set up, and it's already gonna be at our station. And half the time, Dr. Wilson will call us. We got an agenda edition. Some fell through, and we had to put it on. Simple. And if another commissioner, same way. If you got one and it's that pressing, call everybody, or email, or text, or something. Just simple. Because if at 3:30 and we got an agenda edition and nobody has it, and it's something that could be, we don't know really what it's about, somebody up here gonna vote no. It only takes one vote. And y'all have already done that before. So, I mean, I have too. On the last one, I did. It made sense to do it that way. We wasn't in no rush. So it made sense to do it that way. So basically, that's all we gotta do. We don't have to add, we don't have to change the order. Just put the paper out there in the 40. That's all. That's simple. I'm done.
Thank you, LBJ. Commissioner Dominic.
I really don't have a problem the way it is. Years ago, if you wanted to make an agenda addition, whether you were with the commission, the city of Shreveport, town of Vivian, whatever, you can make it, and if it was voted by majority, it got on the agenda. The law was changed a few years ago, and because it's been a little bit complicated, but if someone wants to make an agenda addition, it has to be a motion made, a seconded, and then you call for a public hearing. So I think it's up to the president to do a good job to make sure, hey, look, this is an agenda addition. This is what it is. If you wish to speak about this agenda addition, then you have a right to do so. There have been numerous times when we put things on the agenda, we didn't have it in writing. Last month, if I remember correctly, we had a group that had to have a public hearing on a street issue concerning something that was in Commissioner Stormy Gage Watts' district, and we didn't have anything in writing. I was like, what is this? And as soon as Stormy started saying, I said, oh yeah, this is a no-brainer. Y'all remember? I said, this is a no-brainer, put it on there. And we did that. We let them have a public hearing, but there's been a lot of times when people have said, oh yeah, I got an agenda addition. I want to put this person's name up, blah, blah, something, just something. And it's normally a no-brainer, because if it is, then someone's going to vote no, and it's not going to get on the agenda until next month anyway. So I've never had anybody say anything. I don't know. I think that the statute allows a much more fair opportunity for people to speak. If you're putting things on the agenda to circumvent the open meetings law, then you're violating it. And I don't know if we've ever done that. We never have, that I know of, and we shouldn't be doing that. But if something comes up that needs to be put on there, then you have a right to put it on there, and the public has a right to speak for or against it. That's what the statute is. So I don't think we need to complicate this issue, and I don't think we need to make our clerk and our administration work harder. I think we need to leave it like it is. But if y'all want to send it to Personnel, Policy and Procedure Committee, I'll send it to them.
Thank you, Commissioner Dominic. Commissioner Middleton.
I also would suggest we move it to committee. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm next on the board. I'll support Commissioner Jackson's committee recommendation. It wasn't my literature that was on the agenda edition. I've had this call about 4 times now, and I agree with them. There's certain times when a lot of people in the audience are looking at me like, how do I know to speak on it? Because I don't even know what you guys are voting on. So I just think it needs to be addressed. If it goes to the policy procedure, they come up with something, we'll come back and at least it got worked on. I mean, we did our job. So I'll support Commissioner Jackson's movement to committee. Thank you. Commissioner Jackson.
Yeah, and I just want to make note that some organizations have it to where, and I'm not suggesting that we do it, but in an effort to try to help my colleague with his legislation and not necessarily cast it as fruitless legislation, I'm willing to help. I can't say that I've been extended the same courtesy in the past, but some organizations, they require at least a 24-hour notice for agenda additions or 24-hour notice for amendments. If it's a lengthy amendment, if it's not a technical amendment, if it's a substantive amendment. And so maybe Attorney Frazier can work with you on that. And I just hope that the same courtesy is extended in the future on some ideas. But thank you for this process. But I agree wholeheartedly with what Commissioner, if you're trying to put something on as an agenda addition to skirt the public meetings laws, you're probably taking a huge gamble, because all it takes is one vote to kill it. So
Right.
That's it for me.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. I see no other commissioners. Please vote.
What we voting on?
This is the vote to move to policy and procedures.
So the substitute motion.
Yes, sir.
I should have voted no.
And that passes, let's see, 9-2.
Authorize resolution number 76 to urge Louisiana legislature to add sickle cell awareness Louisiana license plates to be selected as a choice of specialty vehicle plates.
Move to Thursday.
Second.
Commissioner Jackson would like to speak on your motion.
I'd like to make a substitute motion to Englobo and advance to Thursday resolution number 77, resolution number 76, resolution number 77, and resolution number 78, resolution number 79, and the confirmation from the parish administrator.
Second.
And the one for the director.
And the one for the director.
Left Haley sweating.
For Miss Bryan and Miss Barnett.
And the
you do the
appointment
Ward
to Ward
two?
2.
Oh, and Ward
Can you do
2,
the Ward
you know,
2
y'all
yet?
get touchy about y'all stuff. Ward 2 appointment.
And to adopt the register of voters.
And to adopt the register of voter candidate times and dates and time.
We don't have dates.
All of that.
We got them yet?
Telepathy.
I don't think we have.
But leave that off. Leave the
Okay.
register off.
Second, I'll second your motion.
Okay. So we have the motion on the floor and a second. Is everything down to except for, because we need to wait for the dates and times for President Watts? LBJ.
That's what I was gonna do.
Okay. Commissioner Dominic?
You know, do we have the dates and times? You know, we were supposed to get polled, but I mean, you know, if we come here Thursday and they're saying we're gonna be, do it Wednesday, I mean, next, you know, I need some time, so.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully
She wouldn't
we
do
have
that.
some dates and times recommended by Thursday, so we can all bring our calendars and get something
I'll reach
done.
out to Stormy this evening and we'll work on that.
Thank you.
I think it's done. She just wasn't able to be here.
All right, please vote. Mr. Hopkins, will you move this? Sure. Okay.
Mr. Smith, need to vote, please?
All right, and that passes unanimous. Moving on to,
Now it's authorize, set the register of voters interview order, dates, and times for candidates.
Move to Thursday.
second.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll reach out to President Watts tonight, and we'll get those dates by Thursday. Please vote.
Could I just suggest that, and let y'all be aware of, that to do, when we're talking about doing 2 days, we were talking about 2 days, we'll have to do it on our off week to do that.
Okay.
Because we meet Monday, then Wednesdays, MPC or ZBA, and then we meet Thursday. So we need 2 days back to back to get all 20 candidates. I would suggest an off week, which would be city council week, either Wednesday, Thursday, or Thursday, Friday.
Why'd it have to be back to back?
I think you'd be better off doing back to back and not having time in between interviews. That's just a suggestion. That's up to y'all.
Back to back.
Keep
That's
it
it.
going.
Okay.
Same thing don't happen back to back, then we'll 2 days gap.
You have more participation.
Commissioner Jackson?
It still sound like Saturday is an option to you, Todd?
Saturday don't sound good at all.
Todd said, y'all didn't pay for that.
Yeah, Saturday, Sunday.
So Saturday and Sunday is not an option.
At least I'm honest with y'all.
All right, please vote. Just moving this Thursday.
Yeah.
And that passes with 1 out of the chamber. Moving on to citizens' comments, late arrivals. I have none. Mr. Hopkins, do you have any?
No, sir.
All right, now communiques and committee reports.
Move for adjournment.
No.
That's not the time.
Commissioner Cawthorn.
Right.
Dominic.
Is Kevin Samuels available?
Yeah.
I want to take this opportunity to express some good work that was done this past weekend by Animal Service Department. I was out knocking on doors, and a lady runs out of her house, fearful of a snake, and we go back into the backyard. What kind of snake was it?
A water moccasin.
It's a water moccasin. That was pretty long. The woman was afraid and scared to death. But you, along with Corporal Mims,
Yes, sir.
came out, apprehended the snake. took it off the lady's property. She was very happy. She calmed down after such. I mean, it's a pretty big snake. So I just want to publicly acknowledge you guys. That was a great job. You did it very timely, which is what we're supposed to do as relates to Caddo Parish, not Animal Control's Department. So kudos to you guys, and want to give you guys that public acknowledgement. Thanks.
Thank you for that, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cawthorn. Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, and some of this I'll reserve for Thursday in the interest of time. Just wanted to note that the, well, I'll just do them all on Thursday.
Okay. Commissioner Lewis Johnson.
Thank you. I want to make everyone aware of the fact that the Rose Center will be having a dedication on the 6th at 6 o'clock in the evening. And I want to make sure that my fellow commissioners and all the citizens are aware to come out. It's the dedication, the angel dedication for a different area of the Rose Center. So I wanted to announce it and invite everyone to come and support. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. Acting President. I just want to let all my colleagues know that serve on the Finance Committee that on Thursday, September 19th at 3 p.m., we'll have a brief Finance Committee meeting to listen to and hopefully approve the Finance Department's recommendation on our audit firm. Thank you.
Commissioner Middleton.
Thank you. Briefly, you know, as far as the stuff, this minimum wage thing goes, I understand that. I understand your interest in doing such a thing. But also, I'll say this, when I started working when I was literally 12 years old, a little illegal it was, but I was working for $1 an hour when the minimum wage, I think, was $1.60 an hour. But I didn't just do that. I did 3 jobs. The others paid what I was supposed to. Plus, I went to school. All through the Air Force, I worked 2 or 3 jobs. And Dr. Wilson, you probably knew people did that too. If you can't make ends meet, you have to work part-time jobs. And that's what I did, working at Stop and Rob's. That's a convenience store for you folks.
Okay,
who are not law
go Stop and
enforcement.
Rob.
And then in the sheriff's office, I always had 2 or 3 jobs. I worked in addition to the sheriff's office, and I'd work whatever hours I had to. If it was a 16-hour day, it was. Now that I'm looking at a semi-retirement again, when this ends in January, I'm already trying to line up things for me to do, because I do get a pretty good pension from the sheriff's office, but that's not going to be able to carry me where I need to go. That's why I was not here a couple weeks ago, is because I'm trying to advance my training in some areas so I can make up for that revenue shortage. I'm not just sitting here. I don't have to have an 8 to 5 job. I don't have to have just a Monday through Friday job. I do what it takes to make ends meet. My wife is ready for retirement. She's going to have a revenue reduction also, and so that's what we try to do, is you just get out there and you do the best you can. And I appreciate those people who really bust their tail. Dr. Wilson, Erica, I'm going to mention her name to y'all, and you know who I'm talking about, Willie Smith. Mm-hmm. Willie Leroy Smith. That's an amazing man. Saw him yesterday at Walmart, still getting around. But he worked full-time at Schumpert during the days, and then he was over housekeeping folks here at the commission in the afternoons, working 80 hours a week plus.
40 years.
And he had, how many, was it 8 kids, I believe?
He had about 10 kids. And he worked
10
40
kids, and every one of them went to college.
Right.
Every
40 years.
one of them went to college. That's a man that busted his tail to make sure he had what he needed for his family. I'd just like to see other people do that in this life too, and not just think you just get away with the minimum. You make yourself, you get what you make of yourself, and that's where it should be. But thank you for that time, and I just wanted to say, it's not that I have deaf ears for more wage for folks or equal pay. That's already in the law. It should be. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Middleton. Commissioner Lynn.
I want to thank Mr. Clark and the MPC. I've been recently working with a local small business, and they have made it easy to do business in Shreveport and Caddo Parish. That's all. Thank you.
Commissioner Cawthorn.
Yes, I just want to direct what Commissioner Middleton just said. You just made an excellent point. People working hard, doing it for an extended period of time and over an extended period of time. The only question I pose to you, when you was 12 years old, making $1.20 an hour, $1 an hour, should everybody, regardless if they look like you or didn't look like you, should they have been making the same $1 an hour also?
Well, if we're going to have this dialogue, I'll say this.
I elected
to do that. I didn't know the minimum wage was $1. It was $1.35 or $1.60 back in 1967. I don't remember what it was. I didn't care.
Well,
I was
that's my
making
point. That's my
making
point.
$40 a week, and I was loaning mom and dad money when they needed money. Okay.
But you get my point.
But no, your
And
point.
which is the crux of the whole argument. So if minimum wage was $1.60, let's say for sake of all, it was $1.60 an hour. My question to you is, if you were making $1.60 an hour, should everybody, regardless of whether they were a humpback, midget, frog, cat, should they have been making the same $1.60?
I think there should be a minimum wage established. I think that's done by the government. I think it's done by the state, and it's to make sure that we have everybody on an even footing in the state, and I support that. I don't think that we should be trying to take control of this. It's something Together Louisiana is probably behind, wants us to take control and start promoting this. But thank you, end of discussion from me.
Okay, that's when I was.
I'm gonna get up and walk out like somebody would do.
Hold on. Commissioner Cawthorn still has the floor.
No, I'm finished.
Okay.
I'm finished.
Okay. Let me let Jackson speak
Come on,
first.
Jackson, can I please?
Yeah, I just want to, well, I'll yield to you.
Yeah, because I don't want Milton to go. I just want to break it down real quick. If Susie worked 8 hours and Johnny worked 8 hours and Johnny got 8 apples and Susie got 3 apples for the same amount of work, is that not wrong? That's the question. Should Susie get the same amount of money as Johnny? It's yes or no. Okay. So apparently everybody ain't getting paid the same. Y'all have a blessed day in the Lord.
Thank you, Parliamentarian Bowman. Commissioner Jackson.
Yeah, and I respect folks' right to protest and walk out too, so I just want to point that out. Right, right. And so I just want to note that for quite a while, Dr. Wilson, I have not been eating milk and eggs. And I decided to go buy, I was making something, yeah, it'll be on Kill in the morning. But I just wanted to, I went to the store yesterday and bought some milk and eggs. And the milk was $2.34 and the eggs were $2.74. When you add in the tax, and I was at the Blanchard Walmart, so the sales tax was less. And so those two essential items for mothers, milk and eggs, was well over what an hourly wage would have been once you factor in the taxes. And to sit here and say that in 2019, I don't hardly think Commissioner Milton in his absence would be okay with working for that same $1.60 that he was working for in whenever it was. I don't want to guess what year, but I don't think he would be okay working for that same $1.60 here in 2019 and trying to raise a family. And so I don't like for us to go out and say what people ought to do. You have a lot of single mothers, and I'm a product of one who worked for 40 years doing the best that she could do with what she had. And it's not her fault that wages became stagnant and our inflation grew as it did. It's nobody's fault. But what we do have an obligation to do as elected and public servants is to care for the least and to make sure that we're doing things to be competitive. We called for the question, and I did not get to mention that 2 of the most conservative states in the United States, Arkansas and Missouri, have gone from $7.85 to a $12 minimum wage in Missouri, and in Arkansas they've gone from $8.50 to an $11 statewide minimum wage. Dr. Wilson, I know you sit on the Board of Commerce and Industry, but I have not seen one company shut down from Arkansas and come to Louisiana yet as a result of going to that statewide minimum wage. I believe some of our Republican gubernatorial candidates are saying that Louisiana's economy is the last in the nation.
Get off Republicans.
But Arkansas' economy is doing fairly well, even with a statewide increase in their minimum wage. So the notion that a increase in our minimum wage is a job killer, I think that is woefully wrong and not backed up by facts. It is rhetoric. And for us to sit and say that we're fearful, for us to sit and say we're fearful of what might happen, we don't know what will happen with any piece of legislation. We don't know what will happen if we don't take action. All I know is what we have been doing has not worked for Louisiana and our economy based on some analysts. And I just think that we ought to encourage our legislators and our state to do something different. So again, when the first job from Arkansas or Missouri relocates to Louisiana, will you please let us know? Thank you. That's it for me.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you. I didn't want to get into a debate on minimum wage, but when one position is presented, another side has to be presented.
Right.
I want to see everybody who works hard and intelligently be able to support themselves and their family in a way that's respectable and that they can be proud of. But that being said, I do believe. Note I stated I believe, but I think many economists would agree that minimum wage, when raised too high, leads to a reduction in employment.
Yeah.
And a reduction in the number of people who are working. And those of us who employ personnel understand that we have a certain amount of money that we can attribute to employees, and we try to allocate that as effectively as we can. And sometimes if wages are higher, we can't employ as many people. That's just a fact. So, that's my understanding of the fact. So I just there are two sides to this argument, and the truth, the magic number on minimum wage lies somewhere that can be elusive to us. I don't know what that number is, but I just want us to be fair when we talk about minimum wage and understand that minimum wage is not always the panacea. It doesn't lead to perfection. A higher minimum wage. There is a downside to higher minimum wage, and that downside is less employment. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Hopkins, want to make sure that went on the record that these got swapped on the votes, so it wasn't Stormy, but it was mine. And then go on the record, Commissioner Jackson. I apologize for saying fruitless. I don't want you to think that. I know your heart. I know the manner in which that you brought this forward is to help the people. I'm voting more on the how than the why. So I think you and I disagree with the how, but I understand, just like what Commissioner Atkins said, it's the why. I know you want to achieve the pay per hour and the equal pay, and I don't disagree with you on that, but it's the how will the legislator down in Baton Rouge, and we're not telling them how. So that's why I'm eerie on voting on that, or leery rather. So anyways, hope you accept that apology. I didn't think it was fruitless, but it was the how that it was there. That's all.
Second.